What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Smokin Tabacco Show, the third week in a row. Here we are. We are still up and running here, hopefully keeping everybody entertained. I'm joined once again with my good friend, Mr. Jonathan Carney. And today we're going to talk cigars again, maybe get into some non-cigar related information. John, thanks for being here. We have a lot.
Matthew!
Cash flow and manufacturers shutting down production. So kind of a rough time to do business at a trade show.
First of all, I think I might have had you muted during your entire introduction.
Did you?
You might have. I'm not quite sure if I did or not, but I think you might have been.
Ah.
So, your mother says I can't hear Matthew, only John.
At what point did people hear? Should I do my whole spiel over again?
I think we might want to start over again. They heard me say Matthew, and then I'm sitting here and you're talking. I look up, and on the little production thing I got, it says Skype muted. I'm like, oh man, that was such a good introduction. We segued into it. The perfect thing is though, the first thing I was about to say after I unmuted you, when I realized you were muted, was before we start talking about the thing you mentioned. I was like, why don't we talk about what we're smoking first? So since nobody has any idea of what you said, we did say Matthew did say welcome to our third week in a row of the show. We're working through the technical difficulties here, but then he went on to discuss a topic which we're going to talk about here in just a moment. But I'm smoking the La Volcata, the LFD La Volcata. I'm doing the La Volcata this week. The only item that you guys missed was we are going to talk about the PCA trade show cancellation in depth probably during the show, which is what a lot of people want to hear about. And with my position in the industry, it'll definitely be, I definitely have some opinions and views on that and things that I've expressed. But yeah, La Volcata, what are you smoking?
For the first time, interesting, I'm smoking the LFD 25th anniversary.
Beautiful.
Wow. Right off the foot. That was great.
Mm-hmm. That cigar is, I am just saying it because I work for the company. I get paid to say it, but I also agree with it. It's awesome. 25th is one of my favorite cigars. I actually have one of the original test blends from our trade show last year that I have in my humidor downstairs. Just one, and I've got a box of them down in my place in Miami. But I have one of them, and I every day I look at it, I'm like, man, I want to smoke this cigar. So this is the first time you've had it, correct?
Yeah, I think a friend of mine gave this to me who may or may not be a part of the LFD group, and no names mentioned, but it's really good. I like the length on it. I like the ring gauge with it. Feels good in my hand. Great smoke. A little bit of sweetness on it. That was the thing I picked up first. A little bit of sweetness, like right off the foot. That first light, that first little puff of smoke that came off of there. I got a little bit of sweetness. I like it. It's not too overpowering. At least not yet. I haven't gone through it.
It's a very medium-bodied cigar. It's uses Ecuador Corojo wrapper, Dominican binder and filler. It utilizes our Pelo de Oro tobacco, which is called Hair of Gold. The reason it's called that is after the picking process and the primings of the plants and the curing process, when it dries out, it gets a gold, kind of a gold hue to it. So it's called the Pelo de Oro, Hair of Gold. And then it's similar to our end. Yeah, it's gold for the 25th anniversary, which gold is the 50th anniversary, but it's gold and copper. It looks beautiful. So who's keeping track of that? But yeah, it's based off of the Andalusian Bull blend. So I know that's something that you personally like. So you should see some similarities to it. It does utilize a little bit higher priming wrapper. So it's got a little bit more intensity in terms of flavor profile and a little bit smaller ring gauge.
Now my background is a little blurred, so I know you guys at home might, it's kind of like the camera's trying to pick it up, but a beautiful wrapper on it. It's not too toothy. It's smooth. It's a beautiful wrapper on it. Great. The band looks phenomenal on there. That golden copper band. Wonderful presentation. I'm pretty sure the boxes are black too. If I'm not
Yeah, black
mistaken.
piano print
Yeah.
box, absolutely beautiful. So, but yeah, no, I'm enjoying this La Volcata. We had some cigars that were produced that were too small. They were actually a little thinner and a little shorter. And I have
Okay.
them, and I've been smoking them, and it's a really cool size because it's not the actual La Volcata size, which is like a 7 by 48. This is like 46 by like 6 3/4. So it's
Yeah.
just slightly different, and I have almost all of them, and they're delicious. So that's been kind of one of my quarantine go-tos. But yeah, since we talked about the cigars, let's go back to the main screen for a few seconds and pretend like we didn't. Pretend like we'll start the show over here real quick. And I'm gonna give. We're not gonna play the whole song, but we'll give you a few minutes, a second. Give you a few seconds to reset. So here we go back to the main screen.
Welcome to the Smokin Tabacco Show again for the third week in a row. Restarting the intro because John messed up on the technicalities of the programming, but that's okay. We still love him. No, the biggest thing we wanted to kick off the show with is the biggest news of this week is a bombshell that came out today. I think a lot of us knew about this coming. The PCA, formerly known as the IPCPR, has officially canceled their annual trade show, which takes place in Las Vegas every year. It's one of the biggest events of the whole year history, and it has been canceled due to the coronavirus, which we've been talking about for a little bit over a month now on, is that going to happen? And even if it could happen safely, I know we talked a lot about, from an industry, a retailer manufacturer point of view, there's a lot of manufacturers that might not have product available due to, if they shut down and what their supply chain looks like. Retailers who maybe have hit a huge plunge in their business right now because of what's going on might not be looking to go and spend a lot of money at the show, bring in new inventory and all of that good stuff. I know personally, I know there's retailers who spend millions of dollars at that show. Not something they're looking to do when we're kind of in the flaky zone of this coronavirus thing, not sure what, business could be looking like. So not something that people are going to want to fly all the way out to Las Vegas, spend a lot of money, time going out there, the travel expenses. Our manufacturers going to want to, try to commit to orders. Are they even going to have stuff that they can send out? Because, we don't know what the timeline looks like. And, if there's another flare-up of this thing and everything gets shut down again, and now you're looking at even further, delays in production and supply, stuff like that. So there's a lot of moving parts to it, too. It's not just the safety of the people at the show themselves. But, John, as someone who works for a major manufacturer, I know you have some input on this topic, so I'm going to let you kind of get into it.
Yeah, the big deal with the big deal that's been going on here, for the last few months, especially with the premium cigar industry, is the PCA show going to go on? What are the circumstances around it? And, I had always talked about, especially since COVID-19 had gone on, the world changed, and it's still going to change. So I definitely feel like the right decision was made. There's so many factors that go into it, in terms of the ability of retailers to spend that kind of money to go in a short period of time. As the trade show is really almost just 60 days away, and then the next side of it is the manufacturers. They've been trying to scale back, save as much money as possible to keep on employees or make adjustments. Companies have had layoffs, like the company I work for, to prepare for the worst. When you're in those moments, it's do you want to spend that kind of money to go do something like that? And then you mentioned the supply chain. There's so many factors that went into it. And the next side of it was, I think the deciding factor for the PCA was most likely the restrictions on the amount of attendees at Vegas trade shows in that first phase of opening. It just wouldn't have been feasible to do a show of 250 attendees. So yeah, I think the right decision was made, with the circumstances that were going on. There's plenty of things being canceled right now. It's unfortunate. We would like to have it go on, but as I've said before, I think this is a real chance for I think this is a real chance for the PCA to kind of reset, reload, focus on the things they need to do and the things they need to change potentially for the future, and then things that they can do better. So this is an opportunity. As I said, there's silver linings in any challenge. And I think this is just another hurdle for them, but it could be something that they can turn into a positive situation and hopefully, hopefully, improve it so it's even better next year. So that's what I'd like to see them do. I think that's what they will do. But ultimately, in this moment, I believe the right decision was made for the circumstances, and especially things that were out of our control in regards to the opening opening of businesses in the certain phases in Vegas. That I think that made it almost impossible to even make the decision if it was something that needed to go, something they wanted to go on. That was the kind of the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah, one things about that show too is, and we've seen it already, in the past 6 months. There's already been controversy surrounding that show. This would be the first year that they're going to be the new PCA, the Premium Cigar Association, as I said, where it was formerly known as the IPCPR. So they've rebranded themselves, and then shortly after that, there was some controversies with, some of the big manufacturers, as they're, only known as within the industry, pulling out of the show for political reasons and a lot of stuff like that. And so then this is just kind of another thing that's kind of hit them. So I think, like you said, might be good. They can take some time and work some things out, and maybe get some things going. And next year, then they come back. I think it could be good. I think I would agree with you on that.
Yeah, I think we refer to them as the Big Four just because of, I think, the cigar media, refer to it as the Big Four and whatnot, and we do internally, I guess, too. But those four companies leaving, I go, what, for me wasn't the, it was a big part of the association, but it wasn't the backbone of the association.
Yeah.
So, it was obviously a hit to lose them, but I think there was some things that could have been done had there not been any other external factors like the coronavirus situation that we're dealing with. I think there definitely could have been some things done there, and I think they were probably going to have, a successful show. I don't know if it would have been the busiest show of all time. Attendance might have been slightly down, but it was a chance for them to kind of highlight the changes they would have made from constructive criticisms or like direct public criticisms. Anybody can improve. There's definitely room for improvement. Any association, any business is always going to be improvements to be made, or things that can look at. And I think they had more improvements to look at than some others. But I think if you take that as constructive criticism, even though it was very public, I think this was a chance for them to highlight their ability to grow and change and take the association in a positive direction. And I'm just speculating. That's that's probably what I think that they wanted to do internally, was probably, hey, this is a chance for us to show that we can do a show without these four companies. We'll take their opinions. If they didn't take their opinions, that's that, I think that would be a loss. I think that would be a lost opportunity. If somebody, you got four companies that are very substantial, that give you some direct feedback, there's obviously going to be some realistic part of that. So I think this was their chance to show, and I think that's why it was, it was kind of took a little bit of time, and I think probably too they were probably negotiating contracts and the deals of what's going on with with fees they've already paid and things with the actual convention hall at the Sands. So there's definitely, to make the decision. I'm sure that maybe the decision was made a couple weeks back, maybe, or before then. But there's just other realistic things you got to look at before you officially cancel what's going on. So I think that's probably what caused a little bit of the delay. If there was a delay, I mean, we can speculate if there's a delay. Who knows who knows what the plan was? But I would assume that this is something they had talked quite a bit about. Not just until this week. I don't think they just made the decision today to go, hey, it's over. I'm sure there was plenty of factors involved. It's a pretty good sized convention for our industry. It's the largest here in the U.S. But ultimately the right decision was made.
I was actually just going to say, with another major show for the industry, which perhaps is the biggest show in the world, announced earlier this week, they still plan to go ahead, and that's going to be Intertabac, which takes place in September in Germany. And they announced this week, or it might have been last week, that they, as of now, they still plan to, move on with that show. Maybe, with some safety stuff in place. But again, I mean, that's 3 months, 4 months away. So, we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, I mean,
Anything
a
can
lot
change.
can change. Yeah, a lot can change. Things can get worse. I mean, I think we're probably ahead of the game here. I think we're as a country and as a world, we're getting ahead of this. You know, it doesn't, you know, the political rhetoric. You know, as we talked about, the coronavirus has become the new politics. Um, you know, it's almost like religion now. It's like, yeah, you talk about corona, you're going to get in an argument with somebody, and you know, you throw around, hey, I'm a lawyer, I know this, or I'm in medical, so I know this, and you know, I'm a dentist and I know this, or whatever. Um, but I think we're getting ahead of it. I think we're starting to come through with a little bit more direction than we had, you know, 2 months ago. So yeah, a lot can change 3 and 4 months. You know, it's obviously it's a European thing, so it's, you know, it's in Germany, so based off of what's going on there, and the security of people traveling. I mean, but again, we'd be naive to think that it wouldn't be different. There's going to be different. It's not going to go off as it normally would if it does. If it doesn't, obviously they would make adjustments and do different things. But I would be shocked if it went off completely as expected, with no changes and no adjustments. That would be, I think that would be naive to think that they would just be okay. Hey, internet tobacco's on, so it's going to be normal. No, it's not. It's not going to be
Yeah,
normal.
it won't be business as usual, whether it happens or not. You know, but that is probably the next major event. And then after that, I think we're looking at probably, more of a consumer event is, you know, there's the Big Smoke, which takes place in November for anyone out there who's, it's more of, like I said, more of a consumer kind of focused event for anyone who's interested in that. I haven't heard any news on that. My assumption is maybe that'll happen. Might be some restrictions, but maybe that'll happen. And then after that, we're looking at TPE in January, which is the Tobacco Plus Expo.
Yeah,
And
you know,
anything happens.
you got Big Smoke Vegas in November, and then the Big Smoke South Florida has got moved to October.
Oh, okay.
So you're going to see, you know, you're going to see what this will give. I think probably what you'll see is a more restricted amount of people. Like if it was going to be 3,000, they may put some limits where they might have other sessions. You know, where you have a crew of 500 go in for a couple hours, and then there's another 500. But there's, you know, there's a lot of time. October's a ways away. Anything can change. I'd like to think that it would change for the positive.
Right.
So we'll see. But yeah, those are the next big cigar, you know, real high profile of events that you've got coming up in regards to the whole industry really almost involved in it. So yeah, October, November, and then Tobacco Plus Expo in January. You know, I was looking at some comments earlier about Tobacco Plus Expo, and you know, a good friend of mine, Terrence Riley, had said, you know, if we get to January and they're still canceling conventions or trips and things like that to Vegas, we've got a really, you know, I'm paraphrasing, but we've got a really big, actual big issue. So there'll be more to worry about if they're, you know, it's still going on by then. So I don't know if it'll be affected, but again, there'll still be things that will be different. You know, though it said the world's changed, and um, you know, it's just it'd be naive to think that anything's going to go back to normal anytime, you know, soon. You know, in terms of what normal was 2 months ago.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how, like, you know, not just the United States handles it, but, you know, there's obviously countries all over the world who are dealing with this in their own way. Like, for example, I mean, my girlfriend is also a British citizen. Her mother lives over in England, and, you know, I know that we've had conversations, and, you know, it's bad everywhere, but, you know, like, there's stuff going on over there that are a little bit different than what's going on over here, and, you know, especially with international travel, like, how is that going to all kind of play into effect? And, you know, that could also affect some of these things too, because I'm sure there's a lot of international people who come in for a lot of the shows here and vice versa and stuff. So there's a lot of variables too, not just with the cigar stuff in our industry, or just as in life in general, is how we deal with this as a human race moving forward. It's going to be a very rocky terrain, I would say, for a while. You know, it's in just how we juggle certain things. It's definitely going to be a very cautious time for a while, even as stuff starts to reopen and people start to, you know, get back into cigar shops. I know in New Hampshire, the cigar shops are now open. Massachusetts is still closed right now. I know Maine, you guys are under kind of a tight lockdown up there right now still.
Yeah, we're being locked up. We're locked up here.
And I know, I think it was, I was watching earlier, for those of you who maybe saw it or, you know, maybe catch it later, you know, Oliver Nouveau from United Cigar was on with Nick Perdomo. Those guys are going to be doing a joint cigar this year, the Perdomo Firecracker, which I have smoked, and I have reviewed, and I will be going on my website very soon. I'm not going to get into that because I want you guys to want to read it. But if you if you follow Smokin Tabacco, I'll let you guys know when it's available. It should be the next day or so. Also, I will be, sending out an email. So if you go on smokintabacco.com, you join the email list and get all the updates for all the new stuff. So if you are interested in that, go on and sign up for the email newsletter. I'll let you know as soon as that review is available. But yeah, I was watching that earlier, and I know that there was a lot of stuff those guys were talking about, kind of the similar thing, kind of before they kind of got into the cigar stuff that they wanted to get into. They were kind of getting into some of the same talks that we were, and they were going to talk about the show. I didn't get to watch that conversation, but I assume it kind of went the same way. It is what it is. We saw it coming, and everything that happens from here on out, I guess, is going to be a proceed with caution kind of situation.
Yeah, and it has to be that way because a trade show is about any trade show or any industry show or any association show is really about raising money for the association or for the industry that it's representing. And it's about spending money. The last thing that needs to be happening right now is spending money on a presentation of products and new items when really what needs to happen is the spending of money towards ensuring that the manufacturers have enough products available that the retailers can spend money on to create revenue that the consumers can buy to start increasing their business and start bolstering up their business so they can start being successful again. So that's really where that money needs to be spent. And I don't say it's definitely not excess money. It's an important part of the business, and that show's always been important. But this is a time to, you said that you mentioned proceed with caution. We need to be, as an industry, very cautious. There's a lot of things coming up with FDA things this year, with the substantial equivalency coming up in September, and right now there's still
Which
a ton.
not to cut you off.
Yeah.
Not to cut you off, but I think it's just worth mentioning that the deadline was in May. Now it has been moved to September.
Yeah, and that's right around the corner. I did say October. Hey, it's a ways away, and a lot can change. No, that is a little ways away, but it's really not. All that stuff's really not that far away.
Yeah.
So it's really important right now that the industry said proceeds with caution, are cautious with their expenses, cautious with what they're focusing on, and I think if everyone focuses, pardon me, if everyone focuses on their business and doing those same types of things across the industry, that would be what brings the industry out of this, and allows us to be in a more successful position, hopefully going forward. And if not more successful, at least in a stronger position than what we're in right now, because there's a lot of uncertainty. Even though there's some areas and some companies are holding together well, some retailers are doing well with this and adapting. There's a lot of people that aren't, and said again, it's a big word that I use all the time. Naive. We'd be naive to think that things aren't changing, and this isn't a time to kind of scale things back and take it a little bit easier. And he said, proceed with caution as we go forward, because it's really important to make the best decisions possible right now, individually as a retailer, individually as a brand owner, just as ourselves as humans. And forget about professionally. This is a time to proceed with caution and be cautious and make the best decisions you can, because there's just not as much wiggle room in terms of business as there used to be.
There's a question in the comments from Ross Blacker, who wants to know, when is John Carney coming to TCA? And I think that's coming up very, very soon. If you want to address that.
Ross, I will be on the Cigar Authority on Saturday, this coming Saturday. We're going to talk about the do's and don'ts, I believe, in cigar shops. So I'll probably lose some friends and followers from that one. I usually tick people off when I tell them what they should and shouldn't do in cigar shops. But yeah, it should be a fun time. So yeah, I'll be back on the Cigar Authority on Saturday this week, the 16th, I believe. Correct?
Yeah, 16th. I'm excited for that one. I love the Cigar Authority. I love those guys. Dave, Barry, and Mr. Jonathan, as well as Ed Sullivan, who's on the Ashholes radio podcast with myself and Aaron. Always a great time. It's a good group of guys. Excited to watch you be on there, obviously. And but yeah, I was very intrigued by that topic. I saw that the do's and don'ts. Now, I'm really curious, since you bring it up, and I'm not going to spoil that show for those guys, because I love those guys, and I'm going to want to steal their thunder, so I won't have you get really into it. Save that for the Cigar Authority. However, I will say this. Every single person up there has their own kind of personality, and I'm just so interested to see how each one of those guys gives their response to that, as well as you. I mean, I know, kind of how you are in your personality, and it's going to be awesome. I know there's some guys on there that probably might say some things maybe worse than you. I don't know, but it's definitely going to be a good mix. So I'm excited to see that. But if you had to give me one of like your biggest pet peeves or biggest things, you had to give me like one thing on the topic. I mean, what would it be?
So if I had to give you a top, like if I had to give you one don't,
Like maybe a one don't and one do.
I'll just give you one don't. This is
Okay, that's
this is
fair.
the biggest one don't. I would very highly advise people to not do this, and I would ask people to make sure they don't miss the Cigar Authority on Saturday when I will give you all of my do's and all of my don'ts.
Oh, you are just so slick. You are
One of the biggest ones
slick.
that we'll get into, which will be huge. I definitely this one's always comes up. Um, don't bring your own cigar into the cigar shop that you didn't buy there. Um, in reality, you can even extend it a little bit. I personally have a little bit of flexibility with this, but I really understand it. Like you wouldn't go to Olive Garden and bring your salad that you got the day before and eat your
No,
salad there and sit down and say, "Hey, I'm going to sit down and eat my salad. I got it to go yesterday." So this gets a lot of people excited, and it's a fun one to talk about. I respect people's opinions on it, but don't bring your own cigar. Buy a cigar when you're in there. If you're going to go in for the day, buy a cigar that you're going to smoke that day. If you don't want to do it, most of these places have locker programs, have membership programs that are very reasonable. If you spend $500, generally they give you the $500 back in discounts or just money.
yeah,
Um, and that's a nice way to support the business because people said, oh, it's not like a restaurant. It absolutely is. It's 100% like any other business. Not only would you not bring your own vodka to a bar, you wouldn't bring the vodka and say you had a vodka soda, you wouldn't bring the vodka and soda that you had the day before, mainly because you're probably an alcoholic and you drink it like I would. But you wouldn't bring your food from the day before in a restaurant and just sit down at a table and be like, "Ah, don't worry, I don't need to order anything. I bought this yesterday."
right.
It just doesn't happen. So I just say do not bring your own cigar and do buy a cigar when you go in and you're planning on sitting down and hanging out. It's just a really respectful, nice thing to do. And you don't have to spend 10, 20, $15. I have people tell me all the time, "Oh, I smoke cigars of all price ranges." Well, pick one, and that's what you're
Yeah,
going to smoke today. So that's my do and don't, and we'll definitely get started on that one, I'm sure, on the show. That's one that always comes up. But for me, it's so logical, and for some people, it's not because it's like, well, I have the right to do this, and it's like, well, okay. One of the arguments I see is people like, well, if I bring my own cigar, I always buy one for every cigar I smoke, which is responsible in my opinion. That's the same thing,
I would
to an
respect that as
extent.
well.
But
Yeah.
yeah, the people that are like, oh man, I bought this yesterday, I'm going to bring it in. Yeah, I mean, I get you bought it here, but again, you don't bring your takeout food to the restaurant. People are like, oh, it's so different. It's absolutely 100% not different at all.
So I will say that I have a locker at my local shop that I spend most of my time at. I'm sure you guys can figure out where that is. But there is a Smokin Tabacco locker there, and I do keep it stocked. And it is everything that's in there I bought from that said shop. And I don't bring anything home and then bring it back and stock my locker. If I want to stock my locker, I go into the humidor and I buy a box. I buy the whole box, and or I'll buy a bunch of singles and I'll put them in the jar, and I put them right in my locker and I leave them there, because if I come in there and I don't want to buy a smoke or like whatever the reason is, I go in. I know I can always go in my locker and take some stuff out, and I think that's completely responsible. Now, let's say you go into a shop that won't be so strict on this and you bring your own stuff. Maybe it's just one day you have a cigar that you really want to smoke, and maybe it's wintertime, so you're not really smoking at home in other places. You have to really rely on your shop, to smoke at, because you really can't smoke anywhere else. And I know there's a lot of people out there like this. Okay, maybe you can bring that cigar from home, but please buy at least two when you go into that shop. Make up for it, and don't make a habit of it. Yeah, maybe do it here and there once in a while if you're gonna do it. And when you do, like I said, buy a couple of sticks. Don't do it every time. It's just not right. Um, you know,
Yeah,
that's
like I
my
said, I'm not trying to shame anybody. It's just a matter of, you know, it, it's just respectful. It's respecting a business. You're going in there to patronize them. Why would you not support the business that day? So, I get other people's opinions, and well, I bought a box, so I didn't have to do that, and blah 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 blah. And I get that. That's fine. Um, but budget differently. Like if you respect the cigar shop so much that you spend all that time there, respect it to the point where you will budget to make sure that you're being appropriate in the place that you enjoy spending all that time. It's just a respect level of the business, and then, it's the same thing that I would return back. And by the way, if places allow you just to bring your own cigars all the time, which I do see it, it's crazy. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. It's not smart business. And by the way, it doesn't. At the same time, it doesn't. It doesn't reflect well on what they're doing as a business. Maybe they don't respect what they're doing. And I'm not trying to be mean. There's definitely difference of opinions on it, but I know the most successful business people I know want you buying things that they have to sell. And I get it if it's not fair, if they're price gouging, which really doesn't happen in many places at all. But I mean, most of these places are really fair, and the prices are fair. They
There's
all
no
these cigar shops I go to have cigars that are between $2 and $100. So just make the decision. But again, that's what we're going to be talking about the Cigar Authority this weekend. So if you want more of that, join us on that on Saturday. I'll be there hanging out. So we'll talk more and get more into that over the weekend with the boys of the Authority.
That's definitely going to be a good show. I'm looking forward to watching that. I'm glad we kind of got into this, and I think that's a safe one to throw out there because I think it's kind of one that everyone would agree on. I'm interested to see the abnormal opinions that could come out on that show. Maybe not necessarily from you. There's going to be some good ones on this, so I'm excited for that.
Hey, you never know what I might throw out there. So I may throw some things out there just to get some controversy going.
Yeah, it's always fun. Controversy is always good.
Yeah.
We were gonna do on Ashholes Radio. I made my return to the Ashholes podcast this week. For those of you guys who follow me or follow Ashholes podcast. So I made my return after being away for some time. Just taking some extra precaution. Keeping my family safe. But I did come back. We had a great show. We had Oliver Nouveau on there from United talking about the new Firecracker cigar that they do in collaboration with a manufacturer every year. This year it's Perdomo, as I mentioned before. It's going to be based off of the 20th anniversary Sungrown. It has that same wrapper. It's going to have some higher priming binders on it for a little bit more kick. It's going to be all Nicaraguan though, and I've already had it. It's a phenomenal cigar. Like I said, keep an eye out for the review on that. And I think we were supposed to be doing an LFD that day, but some things had to be moved around for some scheduling issues. And I think originally you were actually supposed to be with us for that show before a lot of this happened.
Yeah, everything's been kind of crazy. So all these different lockdowns and regulations and whatnot. So no, I'll be making my debut outside of the state of Maine for one day on Saturday. And then I'll probably be back down to the New Hampshire area the week after that for some other visits and whatnot. But one of the big things is right now too is even though there's travel, there's some places you can travel to, and there's some loosening up. I mean, you have minimums of people that are allowed, occupancy minimums. So even some of these places, I've talked to my sales guys about it. I was like, hey, we got to make sure that we're going in at certain times. There's not during their busy hours, and also we need to make sure that we're not taking up space that could be given to a customer. So we're going to make sure that the places we're going to are at a point where we're comfortably can go in and not infringe on the business that's happening there. Because in reality, ordering, you're not going to be seeing cigar events right off like you normally had seen for probably a little while. So outside of that, most of the ordering and things can take place on the phone, and until these occupancy requirements are scaled back further and we're able to do that safely, it's appropriate and important for salespeople and representatives of companies to not occupy too much space since it is limited.
Yeah, I actually, since you bring it up, so obviously, you are for those who don't know who John is the Vice President of Sales for Flor Dominicana. Now, obviously, you've been in contact with your team, your sales team, and, preparing to go back out on the road and, slowly get back into this and, with, however we can. Is there anything? I know that I'm not going to mention names, and I'm not going to get too into it, and I'm not trying to advertise it either. But I know that there was a particular article that came out about sales team, and when this whole thing went down. But is there anything you want to say in terms of like obviously your sales team is still going to be there when this all returns, and is there anything like that?
No, I mean, in reality, the company I work for, and I am a leader and executive, the only executive other than the owners in the family. We
Yeah.
had some preemptive layoffs because we didn't know how long this thing was going to go, and in reality, is nobody knows how this is going to shape out at the end either. So we decreased our sales force by about 25%. We
Hmm.
went from about 8 salespeople down to five plus me, which is six. Um, so yeah, so that was a preemptive thing. The people that we had to let go, that we did let go. People could say if you had to or not. We felt like we had to because we had to be prepared for the worst case scenario. And again, the all of this is still ahead of us. Um, there's still changes in this business that we're not aware of. With the economy retracting the way it is, it'd be you know it would be unrealistic to look at it and say, the cigar business isn't going to have some sort of retraction. So you have to prepare for that, so you can be around for the long haul with that. And those people that the people that we laid off are people that I was very close with. I spent most of my year with them. I spend more time with my salespeople than I do with anyone else. So yeah, it was challenging, and I hate to see that happen, but we had to make adjustments, and we did. And hopefully we can grow to a point back where we can bring some of those people back. We've already brought one back, and we helped another one find a new job, and then we had two other employees that we haven't been able to bring those territories back yet. One of the territories is almost entirely locked down, physically living in it in the Northeast. But yeah, so that was challenging, and that was never easy. It's never fun. But the decision had to be made to make this uh, as likely as possible that we'd be around for the long haul. And as business declines, we have to make adjustments, and hopefully we bring that back. I said we've been pretty strong throughout this, but just because we've been pretty strong doesn't mean that's where we were at by any means. But no, we're heading in a positive direction. And I said the five salespeople I have, we're splitting the country up a little bit differently, and we'll continue to look at that as areas open up and as the business comes back and the markets kind of reveal how they're going to be operated, and what the new rules of the game are. So
Yeah.
that's certainly something that we'll be looking at, and we look at it daily. We talk about it daily. I talk with Inez and Lito every day, and yeah, so we take it very serious. And said it's unfortunate that those situations do happen. I think we were misrepresented in some of the media on it. I think some of the media handled it very well. I just expect the same. I just expect the same treatment when these other companies have layoffs in the future, or other challenges. I kind of look at it as like knock you when you're down type of a situation. And we weren't really down, and we were making a decision to maintain as many employees as we could for a long period of time. So we leaned it out so we could go a longer period of time, and honestly, and not depend on the government to do it. Like we're not. I'm not going to run my business, and I'm certainly not going to run someone else's business that I do now, and and make decisions based on, oh, I'll be fine because the government's going to save me. No, that's not entrepreneurial by any means. I've got to make decisions that represent the best interest of the financial interests of the company and increase the likelihood of longevity in life. So those are why those decisions were made, and they're challenging, and they're not fun. But I said I felt like we were kind of misrepresented, but I've made my peace with that. That's fine. Everybody's open to their own opinions. And all my requirement is to make sure that I represent the brand and company that I work for and represent the highest of my ability and try to make them as successful as possible. So I have to make those types of decisions.
So we have a couple of questions in the chat room on the Facebook feed. The first one is, what are some of your plans for LFD for future of sales when you are able to get back out?
So let's see if I can share something here. I think we tried to share it on the May Day Eve massacre.
Oh
Um,
yeah, remember this? Yes.
yeah, I'm afraid to kind of share it because one, I don't know where it went. But let me see if I can pull it up and get it on the screen here. So we'll pull that up. So I'll go back to that question. What's the next question?
The next question is going to be besides, so this kind of maybe could be a question maybe, I don't know, we might both have some opinions on. Besides social distancing and all of that, what any ideas for events and new ways to get face-to-face time with retailers and customers in a situation where, like, obviously, as a representative of a major manufacturer, you go to these shops and you hold these huge events and you have a lot of customers come in and you do all that. Maybe we can't do that this year, but how do you still replicate those numbers that you would generate from those events where you maybe can't have that many people in the store?
Great question. People are consumers and retailers are still going to want experiences. So I think people are saying, oh, we have these social media gatherings, these Zoom meetups. Those are great, but that doesn't replace that in-person interaction with somebody. It's definitely great. It's definitely a good thing. Now everyone's almost used Zoom, right? It was
Yeah,
something that was popular before, but now everyone's like Zoom's just something normal. FaceTime is normal. But it's just more accepted for everything. Uh, the digital stuff has been really convenient and really efficient in getting business done. So right off, I think again, people are going to wait to see what you can and can't do and what the circumstances are around the new environment that we're in. But I think eventually you'll see, you're going to see maybe 6 months, at the most, you'll start seeing some events. You'll start seeing some in-store things. There'll definitely will be a much larger focus on sanitation, cleanliness, touching. I've already seen things online where people, retailers are like, oh, we're not providing community cutters anymore, so you must either buy or bring your own cutter to cut your cigar. So some of the service things will change, just simply because of sanitation and safety and the concerns that are around that. But I think you'll see the same thing in those events. I think you'll start to slowly see social interactions face to face and in person come back, and then you'll start to slowly see things that get added on as the relative safety and recognition of that improves. So, I say probably 4 or 5 months you'll start seeing some events, and maybe some people do some things sooner. And that'll be a good gauge of where it's at. But the most important thing is just because we start doing them, the consumer at that point has to feel comfortable participating in that. I had someone the other night that brought it up to me. We were having a discussion. I said, this is going to take some time. And he's like, well, I think that we can get back to, in the cigar business, we can get back to normal, somewhat quicker than other industries. And maybe that's true. But the question was asked, when do you feel safe getting on an airplane again and sitting in the middle seat? I don't know. Maybe some people don't care. But the first person that gets on an airplane, sits in the middle seat, and gets coronavirus, then nobody's going to want to sit in the middle seat ever again.
yeah,
There's just things that we need to look at, and then the consumer, just because you and I say, I have opinions on the lockdowns, I have opinions on these places opening. However, I'm very actively practicing social distancing and quarantine. I wear a mask when I go to the grocery store. I'll wear a mask around. I probably won't wear it down at the Cigar Authority on the weekend just because I'm going to be around people that I know aren't sick, and I'm not going to be touching things. I'm going to have my hand sanitizer and things like that, and I'll be careful and aware of that. But just because we're comfortable and we say, oh, hey, this should open, this should be that. I mean, nobody wants to be the red-shirted Star Trek person that dies every time in every episode. They don't want to be the you don't want to be the guinea pig. So people are still going to be cautious, and even people that I know uh, are outwardly not cautious. Like, oh, I have no issue with that. I have no issue. They're the ones. They're still sitting at home too, trying to figure out what's going on. So things will slowly come back, and you'll start to see things that, you'll see first events, and then you'll see things get added on in more and more comfortable nature. I think food service at events, or complimentary food will be, be a little different. I think people will be a little sketched out by that a little bit for a period of time. So it's all going to take some time. Yeah, it's all going to take some time. I can't find it's on my back on my desktop here on my computer. I can't pull it up because I've got the production software running. But we set up guidelines for our sales team, and I think most companies will probably do this. If they haven't, I highly recommend it. Just some guidelines, because you don't want to be. One thing he was talking about politically today was about like liability laws. So people not being liable for opening things or whatever. And there's a lot of complexities to it, but to protect yourself as a business, you want to make sure you have an action plan to where your team and myself, and anyone who's in face-to-face interaction is doing things to make sure anyone they interact with is safe. I have one of my sales reps that's like, man, I don't want to wear a mask. And he wasn't mad about it. He's like, I'll wear a mask. He says, I don't want to do it. And I said, well, the reason we got to wear the mask is not just to protect ourselves or protect other people, is to make people feel comfortable. Part of that is, I swear, you never know who you're going to interact with that may look at you and say, internally, hey, this guy from LFD didn't have a mask on. That's kind of weird.
And then it reflects poorly
Now,
on you as
now, yeah, it could reflect poorly. Now, you may agree or disagree with it. That's fine. But we're in the public eye, and people's opinions do matter. Sometimes they're not important, but sometimes they are. And we want to try to make sure that we're adhering to everything possible we can to make people feel as comfortable as possible when we're in the store, respecting stores policies, on social distancing, cleanliness, and things like that, wearing masks, making sure we're cleaning the cars regularly, sanitizing because we're going from shop to shop eventually. So those are just important things to have a plan. So one, you protect yourself, and two, you protect your people at the same time. Which is actually the most important part of it.
So another question that was asked, and maybe I can kind of elaborate on this a little bit more as a question. How is this going to affect new product development? And I would maybe add to that. Is there anything you guys are working on right now that maybe could be delayed, or maybe could just be scrapped because of the situation right now? Like, I'm sure some of your manufacturing facilities are not operating maybe at all, or maybe not even at full capacity. I know that some of the manufacturers have said, their crops are all still there, their stuff's still aging, but in terms of making it, they don't have as many rollers working right now, so they won't be able to get certain things made on a certain deadline, or maybe in certain quantities. Who knows? Maybe on the flip side too, as maybe like a second part to this question, could it also be maybe some stuff has to sit longer because maybe it won't get to, and maybe that'll change the whole aging profile.
So Tom Clevo asked this question, good friend. So thanks Tom for watching the show. And the main way it's going to affect product development is, so like right now, so we own our own farm. We do everything in house: farm, factory, distribution. So everything from the seed, the cigar is us. There's several companies that operate that way. We're one of the few that only make cigars for us. We've done some other projects where we've made cigars for others, but 99% of what we make is for us. So how that's really going to affect product development is, we were closed for a short period of time, almost a month. We've been open now for about 3 weeks, and it's at a decreased capacity, and it increases every week. But how it really affects it is, right now we're essentially playing catch up. We're playing catch up on actual existing orders. We're playing catch up on new orders, because also we're a small part of the industry. So even if there's a decline in demand for cigars overall, there may be an increase in demand for our product, for whatever reason. We could get into what that is, and that could be a whole other episode. But really, how it affects new product development is, you're really focusing on your core items. You didn't make cigars for a month, which is a big, it's almost 10% of your year that you didn't make cigars. So you're trying to catch up on 10% of your production. Where is that first? Is on your core items, your top sellers, whether it's 5 SKUs, 2 SKUs, 10, 20, whatever the number is. So to do that, you have to put some projects on hold, and then you have to start making decisions of what recurring projects do we have that we do year to year, so we can focus on limited production items. And then you look at new products. So we'll start looking at that stuff probably in June. We'll start making some decisions on what we're going to produce. The Tobacconist Association of America exclusive series we make is one of those products that we're going to we'll be revisiting in June. If that's something we're going to be able to get done, we'd like to, and we plan on it. But anything could change day to day depending on what else is going on and where we're at. Right now, it seems like we probably will do something with that before the end of the year, but you never know. But it really puts stuff on hold because you're behind, so you're playing catch up. Even if the industry, slows down to a point, you're still playing catch up. Everybody's trying to play catch up. Where the issue is once you catch up, is there still demand there? Is there still people that are able to pay for the products? And are the retailers healthy enough that you can keep creating commerce with them? So the real issue is you're focusing on catching back up, and catching up is the first thing you would do when catching up is not focus on new products. You'd be focusing on core items, especially companies that have been around for some time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely important. I mean, I think there's definitely retailers as well as consumers who, would be interested in that because, maybe you have people who maybe are looking forward to something like I know the TAA cigar obviously was already kind of been mentioned, so I was, curious about that myself. Like how does this affect, the TAA release? And some manufacturers I see are releasing theirs, and I'm sure there are some that maybe are not or whatnot. So I mean, that's always a good thing to hear from. Um, it sounds like you guys have a solid plan in terms of getting back to business. I know.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, and most of the TAA products that have been released was because they were already done. So it
right.
wasn't those projects were already done and ready to roll, and that's part of their schedule of products. Tom mentioned another one of our lines, which is one that I get asked quite a bit about. We have a cigar that we make every year during the summer. It's called the Colorado Oscuro. It uses a Colorado wrapper. What Colorado is a color grading. It's essentially like a reddish brown, and it's called Colorado. And that's one that we're definitely looking at because it's a very popular limited release that we do. Super reasonable price point. All the sizes are less than $10, and it's very popular. Super popular product. We've been making it for like 8 years now. And that's one that we make during the summer. So right now we have not been making Colorado Oscuros where we would normally have been doing that. So that's something that we're going to be looking at and we'll be talking about internally. And that's one that we'll push to probably we're probably going to do it. But it's a matter of where does it fit into your it says your production schedule and where does it fit into the new production schedule that changed because of taking 10% of your year off essentially.
Yeah. I was. Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at. I'm just trying to pull it up now. I had it on my phone. Yeah, there was a letter actually that was released today online from Arturo Fuente. Carlos Fuente Jr. released it saying, obviously he started off saying never is a word. And never is a word I don't like to use, but never in my life have I seen the entire world stop the way we have. All of our lives, our families, and our businesses have been deeply affected by this pandemic. Um, and he kind of goes on to say, he spent time, thinking about this, but as uncertain as it is, the one thing he says is, for example, with his company, Arturo Fuente, very big company, been around a long time, over 100 years. They're still doing everything they can to continue to operate at the best level possible. I mean, and I'm sure you guys are in the same boat. You guys still have cigars that are aging. You guys still have crops that are growing out on the farm right now. Yeah, your workforce might be smaller right now, and as you said before, it's getting bigger every week. But there's still an attempt there. Bigger companies like Arturo Fuente, La Flor Dominicana, companies like that, yeah, they might be able to get through this. But what about the smaller manufacturers that maybe don't have the luxury of having such a strong empire, sort of, for lack of
Yeah.
a better
Well,
term?
and not just small manufacturers because there's small manufacturers, but I mean, a lot of small brands in our company are brands. They're brand owners that have products that are contracted through other, manufacturers. And as that manufacturer is going through a similar challenge, they have a different set of challenges because they don't control the supply chain. So that's a big challenge is not knowing when products are going to be coming. You maybe bought a few months ahead, so they may even feel the challenge from this 2 or 3 months, 4 months, 5 months down the road because maybe they bought 6 months worth of cigars, and now they're getting ready to order the second half of the year's cigars, or they normally would, and they're only going to get 20 or 30% of what they normally had. That definitely impacts their business. So they'll see it a little bit differently. So it is nice to have your own infrastructure and own it in regards to the manufacturing side. So there's a whole different group of challenges, that for some companies won't even come up for months down the road because they probably had cigars now and they'll feel it at different times. So and as the industry continues to change and our economy continues to change and we continue, as I said a few times, to see the new rules of the game, it's going to have a big impact, on different levels at different times because everybody's in a different situation. This industry is very complex in that way because there's a lot of different types of businesses. There's businesses that are just brands. There's businesses that are brands that are owned by retailers that are in challenging situations or not as busy as they would have been. And then there's manufacturers and brand owners. Then there's manufacturers and farmers. Then there's just farmers. So there's all sorts of different things in regards to the supply chains in any business, but particularly ours. It's very unique. Unique in that in that way, that there's just so many different moving pieces and different ways to be part of the business, and all of them are going to be affected by the same thing in different ways.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you a question, and I lost it. Sorry. Ah, man, how foolish. And now he's walking away. We've lost John. No, I'm just pulling his leg a little bit. He did disappear though, which is quite strange. But no, I guess a question I as from a consumer point of view,
I'm
in
back.
terms.
I'm back. I just had to go. I had to go flip one of the logs on the fire.
I figured as much. What is oh, there's another question in here. What do you both think that means for those smaller brands? Do you think that the lack of business might make them more exclusive, or do you think that they might go out of business? I'll let you take that one first.
I'm trying to pull this up onto the screen here. There we go. All right. So what do you both think this means for smaller brands? Do you think the lack of business might make them more exclusive, or do you think they might go out of business? Great question. It's up there twice. I think it's a 50-50 thing. I hate to say it. I think some of them are going to really struggle. I don't necessarily think that it'll make them all exclusive by any means. Small businesses depend on small pockets of good size success, and if those go away, or they become smaller, your operating margins and your revenues are going to decrease, and so I like to think they won't. I hope that some of those smaller brands make decisions to retract expenses, embrace for challenges ahead, and if they do that, they'll survive. And if they don't, they could go the opposite direction again. It would be, I said a lot, it'd be naive of us to think that all these other industries are having businesses go out of business, and then ours isn't going to have any. I think that's something we have to be realistic about. We have to think about it. And as brand owners, I'm not trying, as brand owners and retail owners or business owners in general, we've got to be aware that when you go into business, that going out of business might be something that happens. And in these challenging times, I think it's in the back of everybody's minds. But you got to make the decisions to survive as long as you can. So I would advise any small brands that are weathering the storm right now to prepare one way or another, if they haven't already, with just some sort of plan to survive and maybe retract how they do business for a short period of time. And then with that plan, have a plan to ramp it back up too. So it's not something that's permanent, not something that really gets noticed across the board. But there's, as I said, there's opportunity in anything. But I don't think in this certain situation, the cigar business, the opportunity is spending more money to make more money. Like right now, I think it's it's a proceed with caution thing, as we talked earlier. Same exact point. This is a time to be cautious, and this is a time to be in your most alert state you possibly can be in regards to your business. Just because you don't want to get caught off guard in a situation, as I said, that's challenging like this. You don't have as much to fall back on as you used to have, as you had just 2 months ago.
We are past 9. We are officially into the overtime hour.
Overtime!
Or the overtime.
Welcome to Smokin Tabacco Overtime.
I did have an interesting question for you, because I'm sure there are other more people in the consumer realm who might be asking these questions. I know you cannot speak for other manufacturers, obviously, but there are plenty of companies out there, the LFD included, who have limited production lines. For example, for you guys have the Andalusian Bull. Arturo Fuente has their Opus X collection. There's some stuff from like Tatuaje has stuff like that, and Steve Saka has stuff like that, to name a few. In terms of your limited production stuff, do you see it becoming more rare now from lower production and just availability standpoints, do you see stuff like that being even harder to get for a little while because maybe a smaller production thing is kind of even smaller now for a little while?
Yeah, kind of. It could be that way. I mean, for us, we have 6 rollers that make it. And those 6 rollers still, those 6 rollers, those 3 pairs of two still make it. So our Andalusian Bull is just about the same production that it was before this. Yeah, obviously there'll be a short gap because of the 1 month we were off. But in terms of a month to month, that's back to that. The Andalusian Bull is back to its intended production, which it's still limited. It's a limited production product. So things like that will stay limited. Other companies it may affect differently. As I said, we have about 100. We have slightly over 100 rollers, so 6 of them make that Andalusian Bull, and that's obviously a very, very popular item for us and one of the rarer cigars in the world or hardest cigars to find and
Yep.
get your hands on. So yeah, we don't anticipate that changing, and we haven't changed the production on that. Those people, those rollers are still producing that product. Um, so it's a small portion of what we make, and we haven't allocated anything away from that on that regard. But we have rollers that make regular production SKUs that when they're done making those and get caught up, they make other things. They may go over and start working on a Colorado Oscuro. So projects like that will be affected, but your core of standard, your core items in regards to limited production stuff that you make on an ongoing basis. If it's somebody that's set and it's there to just make that one product, they're going to continue making it if they're employed. So if those people are, and where the impact will be seen will be on, some of our other seasonal projects.
Now, I don't know about you, but for example, um, I'm into allocated bourbons. For those who don't know what that means, it's rare bourbon. It would be the equivalent of you know Andalusian Bull, Opus X, the stuff like that in whiskey. I'm a big drinker of that. My friend Trevor got me into that a little over a year ago, and I know that as someone who's also searching for rare bourbons and certain things that I like to drink, I've been told by some of my local liquor stores that I work with. I know some of the owners and managers, and I've asked for specific things, and they've said, well, like right now, like a lot of the bottle rooms are closed and stuff like that. So stuff like, for anyone who's familiar, like Blanton's, Weller. I drink a lot of Weller 107. Anything from Buffalo Trace. And if you know your whiskey, you know Buffalo Trace. They make Weller Blanton's, Happy Van Winkle, George T. Stagg, the Stagg Jr., all those cool whiskeys that are out there. And all the other distillers, Heaven Hill, makes Elijah Craig. I know that in that realm, so to speak, kind of, not just tobacco, but in the liquor realm, they have these similar products too. And I know that, people have told me, yeah, there is going to be a shortage or a delay. Some of these people are not getting these things out. So, like, obviously a lot of stores will get, a couple of cases of something, and a case could be like 6 bottles. So, I mean, you're talking anywhere from 6 to 12, maybe 20 bottles that a store might get. They might not be, they get it twice a year. They might only get it once this year. Maybe you're only. I mean, a lot of that stuff does come out around the holiday season. October to December is big for allocated bourbon. That's when a lot of that cool stuff comes out. That's when like a lot of the lotteries get picked and stuff like that. For those of you who know what that is, maybe that is the only time we're going to see it this year. And maybe even then, maybe this holiday season, when the allocated stuff is real hot, maybe there is not as much available this year because production or just distribution stuff that was delayed from this first part of the year because of the pandemic. So I kind of see how it could kind of be the same in other realms. I thought that was worth bringing up. That kind of tied in with what we were talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll see that. You're going to see it in every business. It's a similar. As I said, everybody's in the same boat, so you're going to see a lot of similar things in every industry. And as I said, everyone was on an even playing field, and still is. It's everybody was in the same situation, and it's not strange to see similar things happening in other industries. And I think this is a time where you can really look at other industries to see what direction we're going in and get an idea of how things are going to be done. Um, in terms of either hospitality industry, the distribution business in terms of online retail, in-store retail. Everybody's going through the same thing, and it's the first time where you can say you can look at any industry and kind of see what might be happening in our business. And that's a interesting time to be in because it's a great it's a great thing to look at. It's you said the limited nature of bourbons. It's always been somewhat similar to the cigar business, but what's going on in regards to events is similar to what could be going on in hotel businesses or restaurant businesses because they're having similar distancing requirements that they have to have. So we're at a time where we can watch everything and really take a day by day step and see which direction we're going to go. And on a consumer basis, you can start to see and predict where things may go. As different industries open, as restaurants open now slowly across the country in different areas, as that's successful, you can take the things that have been successful there and bring that to your store, or your business. So it's never been a time like that we've been a part of. It's the closest thing to this is kind of like 9/11. That was an awful catastrophe and terrorist situation, and very terrible and a solemn time in our country. But this is the closest thing to that, and this is still different because we're talking about a communicable disease that you could get from anyone. After the terrorist attacks, you were hoping that maybe you thought it could happen, but most likely there wasn't going to be another building run into right off. Um, so the sense of security is different now because anyone you interact with could technically give it to you, and whether you are concerned about it or not, it's a different case. But there are people that are. But we can watch other businesses. You can see what they do, and especially in the premium cigar business, watching what's successful for a restaurant and what they've done. There's definitely things you could take from that to see how successful you could be by implementing it in your business.
I would say another big part of it too is obviously, excuse me, because of this whole situation. There's also a lot of people who are not working. They're living off of unemployment or their savings or whatever their situation is. They're not having the same cash flow. They're just trying to make sure they get through their bills. So as a consumer standpoint, some of those more expensive items that do come out, those sales could decline, as well as your normal stuff, but especially that stuff. And I would say, like, going into the holiday season, which is normally a time for most businesses to kind of like Black Friday has always been kind of like the rule of thumb is for getting into the black for the year, because obviously the inrush of all the excess shopping because of the holiday season, that could, and I don't expect the holiday season to be the biggest it's ever been this year, obviously, but that could be important in its own way just to help manufacturers and businesses just kind of catch up or just make up some of the gap from earlier in the year, not even just to get ahead, just kind of make up to where they should be, so they don't have such a total loss, which I think is also important too. As we look down the barrel of the rest of the year in terms of a sales standpoint for businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's all interesting times, and I said we're still on the point where we're figuring it out and moving forward. So it's we'll see where we go from here. 100%. How's that cigar going for you?
Ooh, I was gonna say I am still burning through it. That's about how far I am.
Nice.
How long? What is the length on this again? I don't know if we mentioned it before.
It's like a 6 and 7/8.
Yeah, I was saying it's pretty long. Almost like a Churchill. Actually, pretty much. I think with the Churchill, usually about 7 inches or so. So just about a Churchill, but a little bit thicker than your average Churchill.
Yeah, it's almost like a double Corona. It's
yeah,
a size called double Corona. It's a 52 ring gauge.
Yeah, this is a phenomenal cigar. I can see how it might be similar to the Andalusian Bull. I could taste some similarities there. Obviously, it's a much different smoking experience, much different shape, different length. The Andalusian Bull does have a very unique shape to it. Is there a name for that? For anyone who might be an Andalusian Bull?
I call it an augmented Solomon.
Okay.
Because it's essentially the Solomon shape with a little portion of it cut off at the bottom. Now, it's shaped slightly different, but I refer to it as an augmented Solomon.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, like you said before, I'm a big smoker of the Andalusian Bull. I have several boxes actually that I stocked up on recently, just because they were available and I didn't want to say no. You don't say no when you're a fan of stuff like that. You just kind of take it. The same rule usually applies when I find rare whiskey. It's like, I don't need it, but I'm going to take it because if I drink through my supply, I'd rather have more of it. But yeah, but I could definitely see the similarities. I would definitely buy more of these. What is the availability on these, by the way?
So that's a
These are
limited edition item. When it's gone, it's gone. So we still have about 600 boxes or so to make from the initial sale that we had on them.
Mhm.
Obviously, it's been delayed slightly because of the situation we're in now. But when it's gone, it's gone. So it's a one-time one deal. Once we've made the production, once we've made the orders that we took, it'll be long gone. So
so we'll still kind of be around for a little while. Obviously, there's still some
yeah,
boxes to make.
if I say if you see them, grab them. If you like them, pick them up. I enjoy it personally. I have a box down at the office. Probably what I'll do is probably in the end of the summer is I'll probably snag two more boxes and just set them aside to have for myself. So, but right now I haven't. I'm around them, so I kind of know what's going on with them. But we're getting to the point where you're going to start to, if you see them somewhat regularly, you're probably not going to you're not going to see them as much. So if it's something you're enjoying, I would advise again. I would advise towards picking some up.
And what does the box retail for? MSRP at most retailers.
Oh wow, I believe it's so funny. I haven't looked at it on a retail price. I've only looked at it the wholesale price. So it would be it's $450. So they're like $18 a cigar, 25 count box. So it's
Yeah,
$425.
yeah, phenomenal cigar. I mean, I guess I'm definitely grab more of these to have some in my collection. Hopefully, grab a box at some point. I'm kind of limited on my retail space right now. I did stock up before the coronavirus because I wasn't sure when I was going to be able to really
You
build
stocked
up my.
up on cigars, and I stocked up on red meat.
Yeah, I know. That's the nature of the game, I guess, for you with quarantine grilling. Which actually, given the I know the last few weeks, we've gone shopping and there's no meat at some of the grocery stores, even Costco. So how does that affect kind of your project with quarantine grilling? Are you finding shortages up in Maine? Is it so
Yeah,
bad?
there's some shortages of certain cuts and things like that, and we build our shows around what's available. So I have a good supply of red meat, and you can substitute out different cuts. I cook mostly different steaks on the show just because I'm the steak guy, obviously, and then
Yep.
Brian's the same way. But we cook other items too. Like one episode we did a few weeks back, we did a canned food episode. I'll flash up on the screen here real quick. Um, our just a second. This week's episode is going to be um, it's called Lucky Seven. So you're getting to see this first. So the Lucky Seven is we're gonna do seven ingredients. You can only use ingredients on the show. So we'll be cooking with just 7 items, and that does include any of the spices, salt, or oil. So I'm going to be doing. We'll be announcing tomorrow. We'll put in this ad out. We kind of the design theme of the poster for this week was based off of the movie Lucky Number 11. This week is at 7 ingredients. Brian and I will be competing head to head, and what will happen is one of us is going to cook for about 30 minutes, and the other person is going to commentate with Fred, our meterator, and then the other person is going to cook for 30 minutes, and that person will commentate, and then we'll decide who the winner is at the end of the show. So that'll be 5 o'clock on Eastern time on Facebook Live. Quarantine Grilling Episode 8, Lucky 7. And it's not lost on us that it is episode 8 and we're talking about the number 7. So that's just how we do things. We're quirky. But yeah, Quarantine Grilling on Monday, Facebook Live, 5 p.m.
Looking forward to it. It's been a great run so far. I know you guys had Oliver Nouveau on there from United Cigar recently. I know I was with him on Tuesday for Ashholes Radio, and I remember him saying he cooked, or he had 10 pounds of pork belly. That
Yeah, man, he did
he
pork belly tacos, but like he bought the pork belly and he was like practicing some dishes. I talked to him the day before, and he was like, "Man," he goes, "This is tough." He's like, "Do you like prep for this?" And I'm like, "Well, I prep for it every day because I'm cooking different steaks and things every day and different items." And he's like, "Yeah, man." He's like, "I bought pork belly like 3 or 4 days ago." He's like, "I've eaten pork belly." He goes, "Every day for like 5 days." He goes, "I love pork belly. It's great." He's like, "I just know that I can't eat this like 9, 10 days in a row. Like I can't eat it forever." So yeah, he made these great pork belly tacos with the salsa verde, and he made a great drink. And we had him on. I call him El Rey Taco. He's the Taco King. so we had him on for our Cinco de Mayo special, which was called Open Borders. So that was 2 weeks back, and then on this previous Monday we did a local show with a friend of mine who's a chef up here in Maine, Cole Averill. He was on, and we did local inspired dishes. Brian cooked some Texas dishes. He did a country fried steak, and then Cole and I did surf and turfs. I did mine with lobster, and he did his with scallops, and then he made a tobacco cigar. He made a it was actually our LFD Oro. He made Oro infused ice cream. It was killer. I actually, after we're done here, I'm gonna go eat some because I have it in the freezer upstairs. And so that
Gee,
was awesome. And he did surf and turf. He made a New England chowder with it was awesome. I had that up, and he brought me some of the stuff over after the show because he lives a mile away. So it was really fun because really on the show you don't ever get to cook the you don't ever get to try the other person's item. You really just have to watch what they cook and like look at it. And it always looks delicious, and we explaining it well. So it was fun to do this local show because my friend Cole lives a mile away from me. So after the show was over, we connected up for a cigar, and he brought me his food that he made, and it was fantastic. And he's also working on a cigar infused sourdough bread this week too that he's making. So he's always making some fun stuff. He's not going to be on the show obviously this week, but I'll be trying some sourdough bread that was infused with this little cigar here, our El Carajon. So he's using that
ooh.
to infuse into into some water that he's going to use for sourdough.
Now, when he infuses a cigar into food like that, is he using the whole cigar? Is he using the wrapper, the filler? Like what does he use?
So for the ice cream he made, he just used the binder and filler. He took the wrapper off and used the binder and filler. And then
Okay.
for the sourdough bread, he's going to soak the cigar. He's going to unroll the cigar and have the loose tobacco soak in water, so it'll absorb the oils and flavors of the tobacco, which is interesting because it's already been aged and fermented. So it's definitely got some different characteristics to it. So he's going to infuse the water with it and then turn that into a sourdough.
That's really interesting. I would try that.
Hmm.
I like
I'm
to
looking
try new
forward to
things.
trying
I
the
like,
ice cream. The cool thing with the ice cream that he made, and I'm gonna fill up my wine glass here real quick. But the cool thing about the ice cream he made is it had a little bit. When you smoke a cigar, when you're done taking a puff, we don't inhale, but you're done taking a puff of the cigar, and you kind of have, you have that finish on the back of your palate, that little bit of
yes.
that little bit of bite and strength. The ice cream, the layers of flavors that were on it, you went from like sweet to savory to sweet again, and then after you swallowed the ice cream and it went away and it was just nothing left in your mouth except your palate being coated by the flavors, it had that finish of like a cigar on it. It was wild. He didn't tell me about it. He's like,
Yeah.
dude, he kept bringing it up. He's like, you got to try this. So I take a spoonful and he's watching me. So I eat it. I'm like, dude, this is really good. He goes, just wait. He goes, you swallowed it yet? And I'm like, yeah. And my eyes got big. I'm like, dude, it's like I just like took a puff of a cigar. And he's like, yeah. He goes, it's so cool. He's like, I'm gonna try to find a way to get it in a different point of the layers of the flavors. Like he's like, I want it to end sweet. He goes, but I want that sensation in there, and it was awesome. So I took it inside and had my dad try it. I'm like, you got to try this out, and he ate it. It was the same thing. He's like, I feel like I feel like I just had a puff of a cigar. And he goes, but minus smoke. And he goes, it's just that sensation and that mouth feel. He's like, that's fascinating. And I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
I go, it's awesome. So he's working on some cool ideas with that. So that'll be pretty interesting.
That's I don't think I've ever heard of that. Cigar infused ice cream. I would definitely try that myself. You might be onto something there. You could maybe sell the
Yeah.
rights to Ben and Jerry's.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It was really good, and I mean, I've had some tobacco infused dishes before, but that was definitely one that I had where it really stood out, and it wasn't overpowering, and it was the first time he ever made it, uh, that he'd ever done anything like that with ice cream. So he was like, "Yeah," he goes, "Now that I know where it's at," he goes, "I'd change the process of making it a little bit so that profile showed up at a different stage of the." That's really when people talk about layered flavors in food, it's really layers of tasting where you're tasting things at different moments, and you can really adjust that by how you produce the food, how you produce the item. Or sauces are a really unique way to do it when people are like, oh, the layers of flavor. I'm layering flavors in sauce. if you don't make your Batuto or your Mirepoix first when you're making like a red sauce, it's gonna, you could make it taste similar, but you're just not gonna get the full complexity of it. The finish won't be the same. The balance of the flavor won't be there. And the same thing with, with cigars or wine or alcohol, whiskeys, scotches. Um, layering of flavors is really important, and that was, you know, that's something I try to do as much as I can. I'm not, classically trained on it, but that ice cream was one of the most interesting experiences through layered flavors that I've ever been on. It was very distinct layers of profile, layers of flavor on your palate, and something I really enjoyed.
Certainly interesting stuff. We are getting to roughly the end of our overtime period, and I figured that would be a good time to maybe bring up any last topics that you wanted to get into. Anything maybe even non-cigar related, or
So yeah, we obviously today the PCA thing was a big thing. I think, talking about, like, this is obviously, I'm grateful to have the opportunity to do this show with you, and I said I'd like to keep doing as much as I can. I know I kind of blur the lines between one thing I think, but what you're doing is you're not really media. We're talking about the cigar industry. We're talking about passion for cigars. So doing something like this is great because it blurs the line between media and the manufacturing side or brand side. So it's a good chance to sit and talk about things um, that I wouldn't necessarily get to talk about on other shows, and I get to be a little more candid. So that's fun. So obviously those things are important that we talked about today, and the opportunity to do that's unique. But we didn't get into any really other topics other here until overtime, just because that's a lot of stuff to fill a show with. But
yeah.
I don't know where you at on the Jordan. We were talking last week. Where are you at on the Jordan show? I get caught up on episodes 4 and 5 this weekend.
I am caught up all the way to episode 8. I will say episodes 7 and 8 I think have been the best so far. I think it really shows. Uh, we were kind of talking about Jordan's character before. And obviously he's a player who played to win. He won a lot. He was very successful. But he also went through a lot of personal challenges and struggles off the court. Obviously, for those who know about, Michael Jordan, there's the death of his father, James, which is touched upon. And how he went off and took a swing at baseball. And that whole period in between the two 3P championship runs that he did. And they kind of also get into just kind of like the emotions and some of the stuff that he was dealing with through that and when he came back and everything that was just kind of, and it showed off kind of who he was as a person. It was more raw. I felt it was not so much about just the basketball and the game. It was more about him as a person. And I liked that. I mean, it was really cool to see. It was very interesting, and I think that I'm interested to see what you have to say about it. When you obviously,
Yeah, I'll be getting into it. Another thing that I've been doing a lot over the quarantine is I bought a PlayStation 4. I was always into games and stuff growing up in the last like 10 years or so, maybe 15, but I kind of scaled back on it. But I bought a PlayStation 4 up here in Maine because a game that I really liked as a child came out in a remake. It was called Final Fantasy VII, and I'm right at the
oh
end of it. They remade just the first half of it, and it was awesome. It was ridiculous. It was part of my life as a child. Like, things that happened to it helped, were like parts of my life, and they did a great job in the remake. I played that for about 45 hours. I played about an hour or so every night before I go to bed. And that's coming to an end tonight because I know how the storyline goes because it's just the first half. Now, there's been some things they've changed in it, but the storylines, I know when the storyline's going to end. And so that's coming to an end tonight. So that'll be pretty sad. I'm looking at picking some other stuff up. I had a strong recommendation that the Batman series, the Arkham Asylum, was the first one they came out with in the current storyline. Was a great series of role playing games and really, vivid. So I think I'm going to start playing Batman after this when I finish that off tonight. I might not finish it tonight. I might start Batman tonight because I don't want the Final Fantasy VII story to end because the second half of the remake is going to be probably at least a year away, if not a little longer. So I know it's coming, but I want to try to prolong it because it's just such a fun experience and fun game. But yeah, so I think Batman's up next. I think that's what I'm going to play. But I did find one that was really interesting. I haven't started it yet. Um, and maybe you've heard of it. I can't remember the exact name of it. I'll look it up. But I saved it on my PlayStation Network. It's a cross-platform game, and it's this game where it's a 5-player multiplayer game. One player plays. It's a horror game, and
Okay.
it's like an escape room essentially, and one person plays a zombie or ghost, or they actually have add-ons where you can play like the Demogorgon from Stranger Things, or you can play Jason. They have Leatherface, and one of them, the person who's playing the character, the horror character, the monster or whatnot, the villain, is playing first person, and that person is playing to try and find the other characters and kill them and torture them. And then the other four people are trying to escape from this person, and they're trying to find a way off the map. And every map's different; it always changes. And those four players are in third person, so they have a little bit better view of what's going on. But
Yeah.
you're trying to escape one of the other players. I'm gonna look it up now and see what it is. It sounded really intriguing to me, but when I went on and looked at it, I mean, it's kind of, you buy the game and then you kind of pay to play. Um, some of the add-ons. So that one sounded really cool and intriguing. So I might try to play that with a couple friends because it sounds like a fun game. Um,
Did you say it's cross-platform?
it is.
So I've obviously played a lot of games too myself. Growing up, I was always Xbox guy. I played a lot of games when I was a kid, but about, I don't know, like 4 years ago, I made the switch and I bit the bullet and I built myself a custom gaming PC and I switched over to PC. And I mostly play like on the Steam store now. So myself, like I've been playing a lot of Borderlands 3. I was always into the Elder Scrolls franchise, so I played, all of them all the way back to Elder Scrolls 3, which not a lot of people know. Everyone always thinks that Skyrim was the first one in that series. No, it's not. A game called Morrowind was the first a console game. That's where I started, and so I've been playing a lot of stuff like that. But I've already played Skyrim like 5 times, so I'm kind of looking for another big role playing game to get into. But that's something, if you can find what that was, and that was on the Steam store, I will definitely download that.
We gotta check it out and try to play it. It's called Dead by Daylight.
Oh, actually, I think I know what that is.
Yeah, and it's been around for like 4 years, I guess. And then my physical therapist for my balance that I have, my balance issue I've got, he's like, you got to try this game. He goes, it's ridiculous. He goes, it's so much fun. He goes, I don't play a lot of games anymore. He's like, but I do play this one. He goes, and it's incredible. So Dead by Daylight, and it is cross-platform. So if you're down for trying it out, I'm down for trying it out. And I got another friend that'd love to jump on with us.
Oh yeah, here it is. It's on the Steam store, and yeah, you're right. The Stranger Things chapter, Chains of Hate, the Halloween. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I can see myself dropping money on different themes and stuff. And the regular game itself, I think, has got a bunch of different characters and things in it too. But the add-ons are obviously something that's unique. So, but I think I'll try. I think maybe try the game first, and then we all figure out which add-ons we want to try. But that's definitely something I've been checking out. So it's been kind of fun to get back into, and funny. I spend all my time traveling, and um, it's been really kind of special during this time off a little bit. I mean, I'm obviously busy during the week with work. I stay busy talking to the team, talking to retailers. We're still planning for the future and everything. But at night it's nice to I spend time out back on my deck here with a fire and grilling. The grilling show's been a good escape and something fun to do that I'll continue doing with the gentleman after. My friend Aaron from the Wood Butcher, Maine. I've been doing some things with him to help him grow his business. So that's been fun. He was a childhood friend of mine, and but also at the end of the night, it's been fun to sit down and play a video game. Like I joke around. It's kind of like I'm back in high school again because I'm living at my parents' house.
Yeah.
I'm kind of doing what I want to do. I'm using their vehicles. I'm eating their food. I pay for it, but I'm helping them. I pay for bills and stuff, just to be a good son. But no, it is. It's like, dude, I'm like 19 again.
That's literally
It's
how I
awesome.
feel. And I
Yeah.
remember going into it, my friend Matt, who lives in town, who I went to high school with, he was still kind of working like 3 or 4 weeks into when I was already kind of off of working at home. So he didn't really know about it yet, and he would come home and he'd play Borderlands 3 with me. And I kept telling him, like, dude, I'm telling you, like, wait till it's you, because it's coming. You're gonna feel like we're in high school again. He was like, yeah. And then like 3 weeks in, we were on there, and he was like, dude, I feel like we're on like summer vacation again. I'm like, I told you.
Yeah, I was talking to my buddy Aaron, the wood butcher, and I was talking to my friend Cole, who was on the show, and Aaron had commented on one of the posts. He's like, "Oh man," he goes, "We're all doing the same stuff that we were doing when we were teenagers." I'm like, "Man, that's what it's about." I just, I wish, it's fun to bring it back, and it's cool, and I'll make sure that even when I get back to having my busy routine, that I will make sure I set time aside for myself for little things like that. And I'm getting back. I'm big in the gym. I haven't been the last 2 months. Actually, the last 4 months, 'cause I had some broken ribs that just healed a month or so ago. So I'm getting back into the gym again, which has been fun. I've been playing the video games. I've been doing my job, and we've been doing great with that. So it's been, as I said, I'm trying to find the positive things in this, and it's been a good chance to refine myself, and refine and refine who I am and what I'm doing, and a better focus on what's important, and that time alone has been a good thing, and it's been valuable for me. So yeah, that's been fun. But yeah, we're definitely gonna look in that Dead by Daylight thing. So we'll talk
I
more
bought
about
it.
it, man. I'm down. We gotta get that figured out this weekend and get it going.
I bought it. So it's installing on my PC up in the house right now. So it'll be
And,
ready
and
to
your
go
mom
for
said,
me.
and letting your hair grow. I may never cut my hair ever again, Susan. It just might go forever.
Yeah,
But yeah,
she's
so it'd be fun, man. The Dead by Daylight game, we're gonna have to make names, like change our names, our like our actual handles on these game consoles, because the
yeah.
recordings will just be epic. Like I can imagine the recordings on some of these things. This would be crazy. The things that get said, and recording it would be amazing, and watching it after.
Yeah, I think I can. Well, I'm playing on a PC, so it's very easy for me to do. I could definitely record those those gameplay run throughs.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, I'm ready to go with it. So you just let me know when you're ready. I already downloaded. I think I already. If I do like the game, I'm definitely going to buy the Stranger Things add-on because I love that show.
Yeah.
That's
I
going
think
to
I
be my
might. I
first
think you know
add-on.
what I might download the game tonight and check it out a little bit. So I'll give you a heads up.
Yeah, let me know.
But we'll definitely try it out this weekend. Maybe Saturday night or Sunday night or something like that would be fun. And I'll get my buddy Cameron on it, and he plays on PC too, and he does some he actually he does some video editing, and he has a little show that he does. So he's like, man, that'd be awesome. He's like, let me know about it. So I'll give him a heads up too, and get him prepped.
See, like it's more than just cigars here. Now we're forming a game group now, which is kind of funny. We've gone from cigar groups to now we're just on game groups. What a time to be alive, especially at our age.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Man, you're a young guy, man. I'm an old man.
I mean, you're not that old. I'll be
Nah, I'm not that
27 this year.
Yeah, I'm 36. So yeah, I'm
Are
old.
you really? I didn't
Yeah, I'm
think you were that.
36. Dude, I didn't think I was that old. I felt the same age until I turned 35, and everybody's like, "Oh, just wait, it gets better." I'm like, "No, I get it." I'm like, "But like, I felt exactly the same from 20 to 35. Exactly at 35, boom, I felt older. It was immediately.
It just hit you like a wall.
Dude, I was going 100 miles an hour for 35 years, and I just ran directly into a wall. But it's
And you're like,
okay. It's okay. You adapt and learn, and you grow. So it is
that's
what
the
it is.
best you can do. That's the best you can do.
All right, so I guess that's the end of overtime, right? We do this again next Thursday. We got more cigars. I'll be down in New Hampshire on Saturday. So if you're there, Two Guys Smoke Shop's open. Anyone that's down there, come on in. If they allow you to sit around, I don't know if they can yet.
I don't know if they are because
But still come on down. Still come on down. I'll be there. So anyone can come on down. I'll probably maybe see you there too. And like I said, we'll do this again next week. Always a good time, and we'll have more industry talk, more cigar talk, and everything else.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next Thursday. I'll see you guys Tuesday on the Ashholes Radio podcast. I'm not sure what we're smoking next week. I have to check off the top of my head, but look forward to that on Tuesday. Also, check out Quarantine Grilling. That's John's other show that he does, and so there's going to be plenty of entertainment between these three platforms here. And yeah, we'll see you next week.